It's very common for investors to talk about American politics all the time, and you know that. But increasingly, I'm asked about how international elections, and I actually don't care for the phrase international, I care for the phrase non-American elections, impact investors, impact capital markets. And of course, at different times they do that differently. And bigger countries have more impact on markets than littler countries, for obvious reasons. But this year, right now, we're seeing a trend that I believe is near monotonic. It's largely the same almost everywhere, which is country elections are moving more the same way that America's election last year did, toward gridlock, toward creating governments that don't really have the capability to do so much. While meanwhile, people keep talking, yakking about governments doing so much. So if you look, for example, at Israel, its elections have gridlocked itself almost completely. And yet, as we look ahead, they probably stagger into more of that. India, the same thing. Germany's elections immediately ahead, same thing. In Japan, it's a little different, of course, because with the impending technical change of regime, the Conservative Party's been in power officially since I was a boy in the 1950s. And the fact is, there's often a little relief rally when you move to the next head of state, but it typically doesn't last very long. And that's because typically nothing really basic changes. But again, they are fairly flattened in terms of ability to get much done. And that's largely the hallmark that we see around the world. The voters seem to be spread apart in opposition, very much the way they are in America. Different parties, different names, different titles, different structures. And of course, outside of America, you typically don't have the two parties. You typically have a multi-party system. But when you get down to arraying all the parties, you get this same spread with adverse reaction to each other that causes the gridlock, which causes the heightened talk, but the diminished action. And that's actually bullish for investors, whether it's the overseas gridlock or the same way it is with US gridlock, and is a continued bullish sign. Subscribe to the Fisher Investment YouTube channel if you like what you've seen. Click the bell to be notified as soon as we publish new videos.